So, you want to move to Japan. You want to visit Japan. Well, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to take a lot of work. You know, you just can't just jump up and just get over here without having the proper setup. First of all, you need to have the right visa. I'm going to tell you the various ways that you can live in Japan. But I'm also going to tell you that the yen rate is now going to affect your decision making. Because this video is going to be about what the yen rate means to you. Now, if you are interested in Japan, if you have been interested in Japan, coming, visiting, whatever you want to do, I'm sure you knew when the yen was 161, almost 162 yen to the dollar in July, the beginning of July. It's now August, and the yen rate is at about 146 the last I checked. So that is about a 10% drop. That means your dollars, whatever currency, I'm basing it all off the US dollar, or whatever currency, because the yen rate went up 10%. Your currency is now worth 10% less in Japan. That means things got 10% more expensive for you here in Japan. So what we're going to start seeing here is this. The Bank of Japan, they are making a lot of moves. And this last move that they made to take the rate to a quarter point, which is still considerably low for a Western nation like Japan, but still, that's a big move in Japan. And now with the U.S. economy getting a bite here with the unemployment rate going up and the lower amount of new jobs that was created last month, that's taking another bite out of the dollar and strengthening the yen. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you going forward to either wanting to visit Japan or live in Japan? I'm going to touch base on both here. Now, just to let you guys know where I'm at here, I'm up here at the Sapporo Beer Garden here in beautiful Sapporo and beautiful Hakodate. I'm up here on vacation with my family. I'm having a wonderful time. I'm going to be back home the day after tomorrow. We're going to be flying out. But I tell you, we're getting ready to eat at this Sapporo Beer Garden here in about an hour and a half, because we just said, what the hell, we're just going to wait. And my wife took my son there to get something to eat. So while they're doing that, I'm out here talking to you. So let's talk about the people who want to visit Japan now. Okay, as you probably already know, if you don't know, some of you may know already, tourism is booming in Japan. Okay, it's booming. But that is because the yen rate is weak, or was weak. Well, the yen rate is starting to go up. And the pundits are saying that the yen could go up to as high as 120 by the end of the year, which is going to hurt a lot of people who want to come to Japan, visit or move. Okay, things are going to start to get more expensive for you in Japan. Okay, so my advice to those that want to live in Japan is this. First of all, you know me, I always tell you, you don't want to work in Japan, you don't want to work for a Japanese company no matter what. And if you do live in Japan, you want to be getting paid in dollars. Yes, the dollar is going to take a hit, but still, if you set it up right, if you got your investments right, like me, I got my investments set up, no matter what. Now, I don't care what the yen rate is going to be, I'm going to live good in Japan. I'm going to continue to live good in Japan, no matter what. Because I'm always looking at my net worth, and I'm always looking at what my investments are doing. And here's the thing too, another thing about investments. You know, your money's going to take a hit. The market, the last couple of days, the day Saturday, I lost track of the days because I've been having so much fun up here. But the last 2 business days, the market got its ass kicked bad. I know, because I looked at my portfolio and it dipped. But guess what didn't dip for me, and guess what didn't change? My investments. And that's why I try to tell people, You need to focus on your investment income, because no matter what the market does, as long as those index funds, as exchange traded funds and mutual funds are paying out those dividends because they have so many holdings, you are going to continue to live, and you're going to continue to live well if you have your stuff lined up right. And that's the way I do it. I have my stuff lined up right to where, hey, I'm getting my dividends no matter what, and my investments are coming through. I've even set it up for myself to where, let's say somebody decided to show their ass and say they don't want to give any more dividends. Well, I'm still set up, because out of my portfolio, I only have, I believe, if I even know off the top of my head, I only have 2 positions out of 3 portfolios that I have that are individual stocks. Everything else is an exchange traded fund or mutual fund or index fund. So no matter what, I'm making money, because most of my funds, like I have a few of them that comprise the entire S&P 500, Russell 2000, things of that nature. See, so I'm making money no matter what. So the beautiful thing about having something like that is it minimizes the risk. It really does minimize your risk. Yes. Okay, that's the beautiful thing about having that. So I don't have to worry about those kind of things. Okay. So I'm going to probably have to end this video here, but I am going to upload another video with more extensive detail about what the yen rate means to you. I thought my son was going to get something to eat here, but it looks like he wants to come out, or they might be waiting for me. I'll see. I'm looking at him right now and seeing if I need to shut this video down, because I really want to talk to you about what this yen rate is going to mean. And like I said, if you want to either live here or just visit. So I know a friend of mine who's coming to Japan in October, and I know he's made his reservations, his hotel reservation, things like that. I don't know if he's paid for everything yet, but I know he's made his reservations. But I do know that he made his stuff in July, and already he's lost 10% already. So he's going to have to pay 10% more based on the yen rate. Now, I told you in my You Won't Get Rich video that the yen is a fluctuating currency. And one thing you know about Japanese, Japan itself, Japan will not let Japan stay, or especially the yen, it will not let it stay low for too long. It will watch the market, and then it will do things to help support the yen. And they may do it a few times where it may look like it won't work, but guess what? There's a combination right now that looks like the yen is getting stronger. Now, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't play the exchange rate game because that's a gamble to me. I don't believe in speculating. I believe in sure things. And that's why, as a long-term investor, I focus all my stuff on dividends. Yes, on getting that dividend income. So, give you an example. So I had a gentleman here give me a comment on my You Won't Get Rich channel. He's teaching English over here. He's out of Canada, and he's got a lot of his money tied in yen. And now he's saying, hey, do I need to move my money back over to back over to Canadian dollars to get myself set up for retirement? And I'm telling him, my advice is no, because the yen rate is getting stronger, and even if it went back and got weaker, still it's going to get stronger. It's like I said, it's a fluctuating currency, just like most currencies are in the world, and you don't want to bank on this, because you will be taking a big hit. I give you an example. I can use myself as an example, because I told you I'm going to talk about my experiences. So my wife and I, we got about so I would say this is about Go Halcomon Yen worth of upgrades. So which means is about 5 million yen worth of upgrades, which in US dollars today is about 33,000 US dollars. When the yen was at 161 yen to the dollar, it was about I think it was about like $30,000 or something like that. So we've already lost, or we already have to pay 3,000 more so far when the bill's due. And our bill is going to be due at the end of this year. So I don't know what the yen rate is going to be. It may be more than that. But what I'm trying to say is this: I have Japanese bank accounts. I have yen already in my bank account, so I don't have to move as much yen to cover these upgrades. So I thought about when it was 161 yen to the dollar to move some money over to my bank to cover all that. But then I thought, you know what? I don't want my money sitting in a Japanese bank not earning interest or not going to work for me. See, so and that's because I'm like I said, I'm a long-term investor. I'm a long-term guy. I know that no matter what, I'm getting interest off of my savings every month because I have a large savings account and I have large investments. So the only reason why I even have any money in my savings account right now, or the amount that I do, is because, like I said, I'm waiting to pay for my upgrades, and I'm also going to be purchasing a vehicle cash for my wife. Although I will probably end up investing. I'll probably end up not investing. I mean, I'll probably end up financing that deal because like I said, I have a bank that is financing me even without the permanent residency here, and I'm going to go to that same bank when I do start making my home loan payments and say, hey, look, I also want to finance a vehicle. Can I do that as well? And they probably will let me do it because they're already financing my house. So I'll see how that works. You know, in Japan, the funny thing about that too is there's a lot of banks. Like I know when we first got here last summer, our local bank here, who pre-approved me with the condition that I get my permanent residence, they also asked me, did you want us to throw money in for you to finance a vehicle? Because you qualify for that much. And you know, because I know I'm going to be getting me a Mercedes Benz here in Japan. I'm going to get my wife a Land Cruiser. So far, that's what she wants. And so I would have just had to just say, you know what, just go ahead and throw that extra money in there on that. But my thing is this: I don't want to throw in my vehicle finance with my mortgage finance because, to me, that's just paying way too much. Even though the interest rate is low, but I didn't want to couple it in with that. I'd rather finance my cars separately from my house because my thing is I want to be able to pay my cars off sooner. So, for example, if I do a 5-year loan finance program with my cars, I'm going to pay that bitch off in about a year and a half or 2 years, tops. See, I can't do that if I do it with my mortgage because it's stuck with my mortgage. So that's why I want to separate those two types of loans. Now, so what does the yen rate mean to you? It looks like I do have some time to talk. I think my son's in there getting something to eat because he wants to eat before we get our call. So here's what I'm trying to say. So what does the yen rate mean to you? Let's say I already told you what it means if you want to visit here. Now let me tell you what it means if you want to live in Japan. Now, so my own experience, when I moved to Japan, you know, of course, I spent dollars to make that move, right? I spent dollars here. I'm getting away from these people here. I spent dollars. And so the yen rate wasn't really a concern to me at the time until I landed in Japan. When my wife and I and family landed in Japan last June, the yen rate was about 140 yen to the dollar, 138, 140 to the dollar. So then it made a difference because then we were like, okay, we had to pay some key money to get our house. I think a month's worth of rent to move in, plus the rent itself, and plus with some cleaning fees. So it ended up being like 3 months worth of rent when it was all said and done. And that was, of course, in yen. Now, at that time, it mattered. So the same will apply to you when you want to move to Japan. If you have a lot of household goods or things of that nature, sorry, my head keeps going out because I'm trying to cover my whole self up, sorry. If you have a lot of household goods, I would recommend that you get rid of the stuff that you really don't have any love for, because it cost me, and that was last year, and it may cost more now. It costed us with our household goods $24,000 just to move our household goods over. And then after we got to Japan, we had to secure a car. So we paid, and nobody was going to finance us at the time. So we had to pay cash for a car. We had to pay cash to get our place, which my wife had already gotten in contact with someone at Pitato. It's a company called Pitato House, who I recommend. Just look it up, Google it, Pitato House. It's you'll see the logo. It's like a green and black. It's like green background with white or black writing, called Pitato in Japanese. In katakana, it says Pitato House. You get in touch with them, and then you'll be able to do it. Now, if you don't speak any Japanese, then I recommend you go with Leo Palace 21. I recommend you go with them because they have people who work with foreigners all the time. The reason why I'm bringing this all up is because in Japan, you may not be able to get to rent a place as easily as you think, because a lot of Japanese landlords do not want to rent to foreigners. That is just the way things work here in Japan. It's not like in the States where you have a law against discrimination. Yeah, they have the laws against discrimination in Japan, but it is up to the owner's discretion who they want to rent to. And I'll tell you right now, based on how foreigners treat these places, I myself, if I was a landlord, wouldn't want to rent to a foreigner here in Japan, because they just don't know how to, think about it. You're new to Japan. You're used to your ways in your own country. You don't know how things work. The big thing is you don't know how to keep the place clean, number one. Number two, when you don't know how to recycle stuff, or you just don't feel like being bothered with recycling. Whereas in every Japanese community, recycling is very important. You need to know how to separate your trash, your plastic, from your burnable items, your non-burnable items, things of that nature. And you can't make any mistakes. My wife and I, we belong to a 25 household community. We use the same bin for recycling, and we have never been tagged. Tagged, but that means when you get tagged, that means that you put your stuff in the recycle bin and you didn't do it right. And then they found out that you didn't, and then they just put a red tag on there and tell you what you did wrong, and you have to come back and get your garbage, and you have to go and you have to reassess what happened. We've never had that, knock on wood, because my wife is very organized. Which brings me to another point. If you want to move to Japan, you need to make sure that you understand what you're doing, because first of all, if you're a single person, or even if you're married, if you are not married to a Japanese, the chance of you moving here without a college degree are slim to none. In Japan, in order for you, because that means you're going to be wanting to look for work, right? So you need to have a college degree in order for you to secure work. And you have to secure work too before you get here, right? Or you can just come here on a tourist visa and look for work and hopefully get work. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend working for a Japanese company. Now, they do have the digital nomad program, which Japan started this year. They do have that, but that is only a 6-month program, and that is if you are able to work remote at your job. What that does is that allows you to keep your household goods and everything, and keep your place in the States, and come over here and do a test run and see if you would like to live in Japan. But keep in mind, once that 6 months is up, because they're only giving you 6 months, that doesn't mean that you'll be able to still live in Japan, because you're still gonna have to find a way to live here, right? So you have some people here who are doing the tourist visa life, where they like U.S. You don't need a visa, right? You just come here and you can rent an apartment and everything. You get to the airport, as soon as you land in customs in Japan, you get that stamp. Bam. They stamp your passport, and then they say, okay, you're good for 3 months. So if you landed today, which is August 3rd, September, October, November, bam, you're good till November 2nd or 3rd, depending on how many days in the month, right? And that means you can rent apartment, you can do whatever you want. But here's a big disadvantage to being here just on a tourist visa. You will not be able to get Japanese health care. That means you will have to secure your own health insurance to be able to live in Japan, meaning if something happened to you, you get sick, you'll have to be able to have your insurance company pay your health care costs. Because if you don't have health care insurance in Japan and you have to end up going to the emergency room or something like that, it's going to cost you a lot of money, okay? I'll give you an example of how good that healthcare system is. It's very cheap in Japan. I mean, not very inexpensive. I don't like to use the word cheap because I don't want to disrespect my Japanese people here. But it's very inexpensive here. And for me, my family of 4, my wife and 2 young children, it's only cost me about $929 a year. I just got the bill the other day. Well, it probably went up a little bit because the yen rate went down or went up. But it was 145,000 yen if you do the math on that, whatever the rate is today. And that is a year. That is it. They automatically took it out of my bank account because I do all my stuff. That's another thing. If you live here on a digital nomad or a tourist visa, you will not be able to get a Japanese bank account. Like I said, so number 1, no health care in Japan. Number 2, no Japanese bank account. Number 3, no Japanese phone number. But that's okay because you got the phone system figured out, because most of your carriers like T-Mobile and those guys will have some sort of system set up to where you can use your phone in Japan. Okay? So those things. So let me break this down again for you. So in order for you, so you want to live in Japan, but you have a lot of things that you have to make sure that are taken care of. It's going to be easier if you are a person married to a Japanese, because that means that no matter what, you can move to Japan. But here's the stickler on that though. That's not really a guarantee here, because you have to fill out what they call a certificate of eligibility, right? So that's what I had to do. I had to literally, if I can explain my process. Last year, in the spring, I did a certificate of eligibility application in what was it, the end of February or middle of February, something like that. And by the end of March, I had my COE. And basically what they want to know is how much assets do you have? What kind of income are you receiving? They want to make sure that you can support you and your family in Japan. They're not just going to let you just fill out paperwork and say, okay, you can live in Japan, because they want to know what you're going to do, right? So yes, if you are married to a Japanese woman and you want to move back to Japan, yeah, you need that guarantor, which will end up being her parents. But the guarantor does not mean that they're going to be taking care of you financially, because that's not what that means. All that means is that that's somebody you know that's currently living in Japan. That's all it is. My father-in-law was my guarantor here in Japan, right? But I did the rest. I went ahead and I filled out my certificate of eligibility. I submitted all my bank statements and my income that I'm getting, proof of my income, do my dividends, investments, and whatnot. And then about 6 weeks later, because what happens is when you fill out that certificate of eligibility, you have to send it to your guarantor in Japan, and they have to do a guarantor letter, and then they have to submit it to the regional immigration office. And then the regional looks at everything. Where I went regionally, they approved my stuff in 6 weeks. My father-in-law got the letter in the mail in 6 weeks that I was approved. He sent me copies of my certificate of eligibility, and then he mailed it to me. Well, on the copies alone, beginning of this year, the Japanese consulates in the U.S. will allow you to use copies. I went ahead and used copies of my certificate of eligibility, and I went ahead and applied for my spouse visa. And they gave me a 1-year spouse visa because that's all I asked for, because I was under the assumption that I could get a PR, permanent residence, as soon as I got here. Well, and then one thing I want to say about that is no matter what you put in, even if you put in a 3 or 5, it doesn't. You don't have a choice on what you're going to get. They're going to tell you what they want to give you. Fortunately for me, my latest application, because my visa expired in June, and I went ahead and did a renewal process in May of this year, they went ahead and approved me for 3 years. So they'll approve you for either 1, 3, or 5. I got a 3-year, which means that now I'm eligible to apply for a permanent residence next year. My lawyer is telling me that I have to wait another year after that, but I'm going to double check with her. I told her why, so waiting to hear back from her on that. Okay. You don't have to go through a lawyer, by the way, but I'm going to go through a lawyer because I want to make sure all my stuff is in line. Okay. So you want to move to Japan, so get back to that. So that you're married to a Japanese woman, that's probably the easiest way, but you still have to provide proof of income and assets. If you don't have that, if you have no way of living in Japan, you will not be able to live in Japan. They will not give you a certificate of eligibility. They won't. And that means that your wife will have to come over here and secure a job, and then she will have to apply to have you live in Japan. Because she'll then be your guarantor. That's another way to do it. She would move to Japan first, secure a job, and then get you over here to the point to where you can then look for a job that's going to pay you something. But most guys don't do it that way. Most people, what they would do is they would get here on a tourist visa, and then they would find a job, and then they would say, look, I got a job. And because when you use a certificate of eligibility, you can put down a company that you're going to be working for too, and that will allow you to get in the country. Now, so I don't know how many viewers that are watching my channel have college degrees and they're not married to Japanese women. But if you don't have a college degree and you're not married to a Japanese woman, your chance of living in Japan are slim to none, except for a tourist visa, which I would not recommend you do. Because like I said, you won't be covered by anything. And even though you can live here, but if we have another pandemic or another country shutdown, then you go out of the country to Korea for a day, because all you got to do, basically, the Japanese, they'll tell you, the customs, they'll say, look, you can live here, just, we give you a 3-year visa. So let's say, like I said, you got that visa today, you got your passport stamped at Narita or Haneda on August 3rd, and then November 2nd, you decide to leave, and you go to Korea for a day or two, and you come back on the 4th, and then they stamp your passport again. Now you got another 3 months. Well, that they say you can do that, but it's not guaranteed if there's some outside issues like a pandemic or a war or anything. So let's say, worst case scenario, you're renting an apartment in Japan that you're paying some coin for, like say 60 or 70,000 yen a month, and you got all your household goods there, with the little things that you brought over, and then you want to get back in country. Guess what? You can't get back in, and guess what? You're paying for a place that you can't live in. See, that's a risk. But if you are like me on a spouse visa or you have a permanent residence, no matter what the conditions are, pandemic, if I travel to the States, I come back to Japan, they let me back in country because I'm authorized to live here. Okay? So the way the yen rate, getting back to how the yen rate would affect you as well. See, so I told you which some ways that you can move to Japan, right? If you got a college degree, come here, look for a job, or apply online and see if somebody will hire you. A lot of people do that. They get a job, they get secure, they get their work visa, they're good, okay? But like I said, I wouldn't, if you want to live really well over here, yeah, you can still live on that pay, but it's not going to be that much. But that to me is like a really like desperate way to live in Japan if you just want to get on a plane. I've had guys do that. I've had a couple guys just accept any old job, for example, through Nova, which doesn't pay well, and they got here. One guy got fired from Nova because he violated company policy, and another guy ended up quitting Nova a year later because he realized they wasn't paying that much, and luckily for him, he got another job. Okay, so that's a way to do it single. But like I said, if you're single with no college degree, you really won't be able to live in Japan. You can visit all you want, but you won't be able to live in Japan. And another thing too, when you move here with the yen rate doing what it's going to do, if you're going to get paid in dollars, remember your situation is going to fluctuate. You're gonna feel less rich if the yen rate gets stronger, right? So that's why I'm saying investments should come into play, because those investments will help supplement that exchange rate difference. That's what I always recommend. All right. So that's why it's the yen rate. That's how the yen rate is going to affect you. Things are going to be more expensive here for you. Like I said, securing housing, paying for different things here and there. They're going to seem more expensive. And if you're just the kind of person that's going to get here and barely make it, you're not going to make it. So what I suggest you do is you figure out you go to the worst case scenario on exchange rate, like 100 yen to the dollar, and see if you can live here on that income you're going to get. So with that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off. I will be doing some more videos, especially when I get back. It's raining harder than it needs to be. I'm going to go and get inside. It's probably loud. You probably can't even hear me with the rain. But it's been a beautiful time for me up here in Sapporo, Hakodate, Asaikawa, Otaru, Chitose. We still got like another couple days here. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call this video, what does the yen rate mean to you? And it means that you have to plan things based on the fluctuation of it. It's gonna add a monkey wrench into your plans, is what I'm trying to say. This is BSP, and I really appreciate all the comments and views that I'm getting here. Thank you so much for viewing my channel. Please hit the like button and subscribe. I'm out.